The Honorable Member for Kafinsa, followed by the Minister of Agriculture. Is the Honorable Member for Kafinsa here?
I thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to give a few comments on this very important topic of the annual borrowing plan. Mr. Speaker, this is a great day in our history as a country. It is a great day in our history as a country because for the first time, both those on the left and those on the right agree that it is important to borrow. For the first time. Because at some point, Mr. Speaker, there was always an argument that government shouldn't borrow. What we are having, Mr. Speaker, is one of these many very frank conversations that we should always have. When the Member of Parliament for Chilubi was speaking, I was listening. When the Minister of Infrastructure was speaking, I was listening. You have to listen to literally everyone. Even when the Member of Parliament for Zambezi was speaking, I was listening. And in everything that was said by all the speakers, no one said borrowing is a bad thing. For the first time. If you go in history, borrowing was always a bad thing. For the first time, and I want to emphasize, I may take 4 minutes to emphasize this point. The constituency where I'm coming from, Mr. Speaker, has got challenges of infrastructure. If you are driving from Mulenga compound, going to Ndeke, we did a very nice road that time I served as mayor of Kitwe. That money was borrowed. But today, Mulenga partly has been upgraded. If you go to Kafulafuta, there's a water project that is supposed to give access to people in specific areas. Masaiti needs to benefit, they need to have clean water. Government then decided that they need to borrow money to provide infrastructure. The Minister of Water at that time needed money to bridge that gap of infrastructure. Money was borrowed. I have looked at the annual borrowing plan, and I know the Member of Parliament for Kawe is excited. My mother there is very excited because in the annual borrowing plan, there is money that has to be borrowed. I know she's very excited. That money will be borrowed. The Member of Parliament is excited that money will be borrowed. The same excitement I used to have when I was mayor, asking the President, Your Excellency, we need roads in Kitwe. And the CBD in Kitwe today looks very beautiful. That is a fact. Money was borrowed. And we did very beautiful roads in Kitwe. What am I trying to say, Mr. Speaker? A country that recognizes its infrastructure gap must close that gap. How do you close that gap? You have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself, do we wait for 20 years when the economy is able to generate its own revenue, or you look for stakeholders to support your budget? That is what this annual borrowing plan is. It's a plan to support the budget. And how are we going to support the budget? Part of the money will be borrowed externally, part of it will be borrowed internally. The Minister of Finance 3-4 months ago responded to a question I raised. How do you plan to reduce interest rates? The Minister of Finance is on record indicating that part of the strategy is to avoid government from borrowing locally. He's on record, Mr. Speaker, responding to a question from the Member of Parliament for Kafinsa. But when I look at the annual borrowing plan, there's domestic borrowing there. Again, I don't want to stand here to blame the minister, because I know in government you have to realize that certain things are inevitable. Sometimes it's necessary to borrow even locally. That's what government is doing. They are borrowing externally and they are borrowing internally. And we're not going to condemn you, because this is a very special day in our history. I want to repeat. It's a very special day, because for now the conversation will change. When an issue comes, we'll all show the right objectivity in as far as national matters are concerned. If money needs to be borrowed, if there's an activity that has to be supported, count on us. We'll tell you, yes, please proceed. This is a very important project. We need support. When an idea comes to support government, we have to support you. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm excited today. I'm excited today because each one of us will leave this house today reflecting that what is good for Zambia is good for Zambia. If Zambia has been lagging behind in terms of infrastructure, we must agree with the left, the right, that can we find money to bridge this gap? Our colleagues who visit from Zimbabwe, our colleagues who are mayors in other cities, when they come in Lusaka, they tell us, colleagues, you did a good job with the capital city. Yes, that's what they say. They are proud of what we did. Even you, this is your time. Do things that will leave legacies. People will be able to say you did good. So when you bring annual borrowing plans, a reminder to the people of Zambia that borrowing is normal, we will definitely support you. We will support you. You can rely on us. I have 1 minute. I can relax and debate because I know the country is listening. The country is listening that it's important to support infrastructure gaps. If you have gaps in education, if you have gaps in all these sectors, the Minister of Education needs money to finish the many schools. We need to give him money as Parliament. So if he brings a plan here through Minister of Finance, we'll support it. So, Mr. Speaker, borrowing is normal. That's the message for today. According to the gospel from Kamfinsa constituency, I thank you.